Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of Business Banking at Jovia Financial Credit Union, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, CEO, keeper of the brand, marketing and digital agency.
We're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship. We bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. Plus, we interview some of the top business leaders in the industry, Ray.
Yes, and I'm very excited today because I have a good friend here. These days, folks are definitely more aware of the necessity for cybersecurity for their business as well as for their personal information. People trying to hack into you all the time, right? Helping provide us with some clarity and empowerment is Dr. Daniel Ford. He's the Chief Information Security Officer of Jovia Financial Credit Union. So, Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm very, very excited because this is something where we know there's a need, but, you know, for the layperson like myself and like Donyshia, I don't know. Cybersecurity sounds like a science fiction thing. It doesn't sound like something. All right, so but I'm getting ahead of myself. Why don't you just tell me a little bit about yourself before we jump into that topic?
Well, a little bit about myself.
Yes, sir.
The most interesting thing about me is that I am very comfortable in being uncomfortable, and that's probably what has allowed me to be successful in my career. Mm-hmm. I feel like the eye of the hurricane. The more chaos around me, the better I feel.
Okay. All right. That sounds, yeah, I could see that.
I love it. But when I hear cybersecurity, I want to get down to this new two-step authentication and all these codes that everyone is doing. And I'm sure you're the mastermind behind all of this.
Well, when you think about two-step authentication or multi-factor authentication, we've been doing it for decades. You may not have thought about it, but your debit card, you're going to get money. You're putting that card, which is something you have, you put that into the machine, and then you put in a password, something you know. That way, if someone just has the card, they can't get cash out because they need your PIN, right? So we've always been doing it. Now we're just taking it to this digital world, and I would love for it to happen much sooner because I tell everyone, I see it all the time on any social media. Oh, my account's been hacked. Typically, the account wasn't hacked. What it really was is someone stole all of your information. They were able to copycat it, make a new name up and put it on there. But if Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, they all have multi-factor authentication. That is your saving grace because then they have to know your password. They got to take care of your phone. I mean, I always know where my phone is. I don't know if you all feel the same way, but when my phone's not around me, it's almost like it's an appendage now. Like I feel like I've lost my arm.
Yeah. Oh, my kids forget it. If they lost their phone, they're panicking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's the reason. There's multiple factors of authentication. So I call it multi-factor authentication. But if you think about it, it's something you know, a password, something you have. It could be your phone. It could be that debit card, something you are, which is your biometrics. Then they have some other ones which are all kind of plays on that. But that's really the factors of authentication.
Well, at least you don't have to remember all your questions, right?
Yes. Yes.
You do have to remember now.
Well, some of them, but
for me, it makes it more difficult because I never answer the questions correctly. So then I have to remember.
Here.
Because, your mother's maiden name. I'm not putting my mother's maiden name. That's easy to find out.
Yeah.
Facebook is not your friend.
This is true. Now, but cybersecurity, that's on a personal level, I guess, and that's part of it. But it covers so much of a broader spectrum, correct? I mean, what is really cybersecurity when you get down to it? What does that mean?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question because I guess everyone's going to answer that a little bit differently. So just
that's
like
fair.
in anything, cybersecurity is about your risk tolerance. So you could say, I'm willing to take on a bunch of risk. I don't wear a seatbelt when I'm driving through Manhattan. Probably not a good thing because you're likely to get into a car accident.
Right.
So it's about risk tolerance. What am I willing to take on? Because if you are going to say, I don't want to take on any risk, that means you're never leaving the house. You're not doing anything. And even with that, there's still a risk that the house could burn down.
Right.
It's really almost impossible to say you're not taking on any risk. That's cybersecurity. It's risk tolerance in a digital world that brings in physical attributes. Because I still need a lock on the door. If I don't have that lock on the door, people can get in. And if you're at a financial institution, you don't, close the vault. Someone gets in, they just walk into the vault, right? That's still physical, but there's digital aspects to it. So if I can get in and plug in my computer into your organization, I have access. And that access means I'm going to get information I should not have access to.
What's the biggest misconceptions, though, with regards to cybersecurity?
I would say there's two. The one that I find the funniest is when people say, I don't have anything anyone would want, which is really just not true. I used to give the example, might be a little bit difficult now, the same one. We could take that anywhere in the world that's not the United States. So I used to say, in Ukraine, a family of 4 lives comfortably on $200 a month. Do you have $200 in cash in your bank account? Maybe $50. That means they fed themselves for a week for $50. In other parts of the world, it's even less. Wow. We take that for granted. You also have the cyber criminals are the opposite side of where we are on cybersecurity. They are trying to develop a pipeline of information so they can exploit later. So your Facebook, so many people have hundreds and hundreds of friends. I'm going, I barely have 5 friends. Everyone else is an acquaintance. So I don't want everyone knowing my information. So why do we put it all out there? So when you say you have nothing that a criminal wants, maybe you don't, but who are you connected to? Who are you connected to in the future? Maybe 5 years from now, you figured it out and you are Jeff Bezos. It doesn't take much time to go that particular moment where you figured it out and now you've got money and you were never paying attention to cybersecurity personally, and that hacker has you right where they want you.
Wow.
One of the things that makes me very comfortable about financial institutions like ours is that this is a subject of focus. We've recognized and looking ahead that this is something that needs to be covered. Can you tell us what is it that is really involved with your role and how that might apply with other financial institutions? You and I are talking before about our associate Allison. You and her at Jovia do a lot of work with regards to making sure that our information is secure. And, so tell us a little bit about that kind of work, what it is involved with the day-to-day there.
So part of what we do is trying to understand what's the risk tolerance of the board and my peers at Jovia. And I think most people in cybersecurity try and do that. Mm-hmm. The thing that I feel where we fail in cybersecurity is this notion of compliance. Take a look at every organization that's been breached. The one thing they all have in common is they were compliant. They were compliant with PCI DSS. They had their COBIT certificate. They had their SOC 2s, which are all things in various places of if I have personal identifiable information, I would get this certification on. They were all compliant. Back when I worked for McAfee, we did a study, and it said that those organizations that are trying to just be compliant with whatever framework, they spend 3 to 5 times more money than if they were just trying to be proactive in securing the most critical assets. So when I came to Jovia, we had this conversation with the board, and I told them that it's going to take us 3 years to get to an average maturity level of a 3. So they put these things on a scale of 1 to 5. And so 3 is kind of average. Some things are going to be a 2. Some things are going to be a 4. We might get to some 5 on some things. But every single auditor is not going to like what I'm going to be doing, because I'm going to develop capabilities. And then we will go back and we will marry those capabilities back to whatever compliance framework we want to do. Because what's more important, that I have documentation on how something's going to be done, or that I can prevent the next ransomware attack?
I agree.
Jovia is constantly under attack, and we have thwarted quite a few. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's lucky, maybe it's good. I think it's a little of both. But the aspect is we develop capabilities. And from that point, we start to become compliant because we want to be mature on how we do it. The what is already defined. The how is important.
You are listening to Tara Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, and our guest today is Dr. Daniel Ford, Chief Information Security Officer of Jovia Financial Credit Union. Now, in terms of best practices, what things do you think are the best practices for folks on a personal level, and then maybe could you talk about on the corporate level? What are some best practices?
I think the best practice that anyone can do is don't trust anyone.
Yes.
If I can add to that too, I was in Jovia the other day.
Okay.
I went to Wire Money.
Yep.
I'm filling out the form. Do you know this person? Have they contacted you on the phone? Did you speak to them? Did they ask you for information? And I said, Jovia is no Ashley Madison. Everything that's happening here, I'm actually scared to send this money. I know the organization, but they're protecting me. So I want to thank you. I know that's not cybersecurity, but it made me feel that, you know what, if this is not something that's right, then I need to put this paperwork to the side. Fraud
and cybersecurity go hand in hand.
Yes.
And that's exactly what they're trying to prevent in this case, is you being defrauded.
Absolutely.
So that is extremely important. And that aspect of don't trust anyone, that's there. Anytime you're getting communication that you were not expecting, they want something from you. Everything in life is a negotiation to begin with, but this is a negotiation that was unsolicited and you didn't even know. It comes in through email and there's a link. It's probably bad.
Absolutely.
What was the old saying? Nothing good happens after midnight. Mm-hmm. Nothing good happens from an unsolicited email.
That's sage advice right there.
Yeah, I think especially as a small business owner, you receive so many predatory lending requests on a daily basis on email and on the phone. But as a leader, you can't do it alone. Can you tell us a little bit about your team and your network and how you guys work at Jovia?
Absolutely. So I'm very different in how I approach everything. And maybe this is because of growing up playing baseball. I learned that if you give 100% of the time, you will beat those that are even better than you because they know they're better and they'll take a playoff. So I don't ever take a playoff. My business love language is continuous learning. And it's mandated for everyone that works for me that they do 2 hours of on-the-job training per week. That's a weekly goal. They don't get to say, oh, I'm too busy. They don't get to say, oh, I'll do it next week. If they miss, they get docked. It's that important, especially in cybersecurity, and they all know it. The cyber criminal does not sleep. They are constantly evolving. We are in, for those people that are Star Trek fans, cybersecurity is the Kobayashi Maru. It is the unwinnable game, and it's a game that I love to play. So my team, I only hire 2 types of people. You're either junior or you're senior. And those junior level people, I immediately invest a tremendous amount of training into. And I don't hire the mid-level people because that's their evolution. Their progression is to go from junior to mid. So you hire senior people, you hire junior people. The senior people will help to bring those junior people along, and then they can evolve. Today, the team is made up of Allison that Ray had mentioned. She was an intern for me at Jovia. She's been with me from the very beginning. She is absolutely my right-hand person. She probably hates me most days because I never give her the answer that she's looking for, which is perfect. I even send her links in the beginning that's called Let Me Google That For You, which takes me more time than for me just to answer it. So I'll send it. I was like, if you could Google this and find it on the first 2 pages, then why are you asking me? So I'm very practical in the advice that I give them, and I never tell them kind of how to do their job. I say, you may want to ask me how to do it because I've got some experience. And they also hate it when I ask them, when they say, oh, we're going to do, it could be anything. And I'll say, are you sure?
Oh, goodness.
Because if I'm asking they're sure, that means they know I know something that they don't, and they should not be so sure. Mm-hmm. And then we have 3 other people. I started all of them off very junior, and it's a lot of fun. Now, my network consists of people that are former Navy SEALs, cryptographers that help develop Apple's full disk encryption, inventors of PGP. They're all over the place. But the one thing that we all have in common, none of us want to be the smartest person in the room. If we're the smartest person in the room, we truly want to find a different room because we know that the cyber criminal is better than us.
Now, what are some of the things that you're seeing out there as you're exploring this world of cybersecurity that concerns you and that you think other organizations may be not prepared for this? What are some of the things out there that worry you, keep you up at night?
Well, back when I was doing government work, I used to say nothing keeps me up at night. I'm what keeps them up at night. Now,
love it.
Even still, nothing really keeps me up at night anymore. I know and I'm comfortable with how my team is going to respond to pretty much anything. And that's because I've invested my time. As a leader, you have to invest time into your people. It's not about me anymore. So I'm comfortable. They can handle a lot. But what keeps me up at night is all of the third-party vendors that I continue to see that are being breached for not doing the basics correctly. You know, when we see this thing about the Move It breach that's been going on, that's one thing. But no one's talking about these other companies that just didn't do some of the basics correctly. And, you know, I won't get into the detail of it because the devil is in the details and I haven't seen all of it. But I know what I would have done. And I've asked a lot of my peers, here's the situation, and this is what occurred. How would you have prevented it? And they all tell me the same thing. So I'm going, then that must mean some of these third-party vendors, they're just not doing it. They're phoning it in. And I think that's disappointing. The way a company like Jovia is going to be breached today is not directly. It's going to be through some other vendor. And there's nothing I can do. I'm sorry. No. There's nothing I can do about it because that's the aspect of this. I have zero control. But who's going to be blamed if one of our vendors is breached? Me.
You
it's still me.
I feel like cybersecurity is like that scary Halloween movie. And so what are some of your top 5 tips for keeping information secure?
Well, the first one, don't trust anyone.
DTA.
Right. That should be just a typical thing. Don't trust anyone. That also includes public Wi-Fi. You go into Starbucks and you're going to say, I need to connect to this Wi-Fi. One, how do you know it's Starbucks? 2, we already know that we're the product. If we're going to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we're the product. They're monetizing us.
Yes.
So too is Starbucks when you're going on their Wi-Fi. They're taking a look at all the places where you're going. And one, maybe it may not even be a Starbucks Wi-Fi. I've actually done this where I made myself look like a Starbucks Wi-Fi and people just connect to it. And I'm like, wow, they're doing banking transactions. You can decrypt any of that stuff anytime. And so if you're not using multi-factor authentication we talked about and you're connecting to your bank, boom, I've got your credentials.
Yeah. I always think of Minority Report. I think it's Minority Report, the movie where as people are walking around, the ads that we see digitally now when we're on Facebook or wherever are appearing in their face literally as you're walking.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's extremely scary for me. And it's not whether or not you're paranoid or not. It's whether or not you're paranoid enough. Going back to your social media, another thing, limit the amount of access people have. So we do an internal podcast at Jovia for cybersecurity. And we did a hacker movie review. We reviewed War Games from 1983. Right?
I was going to ask you if that was your favorite.
It is. It's a really good movie that actually depicts a lot of things. And so what the Matthew Broderick character goes to do is he researches the inventor of the Whopper. That was the name of the machine learning and AI computer system that was going to just go into World War III. So the password wind up being the inventor's son that passed away, Joshua. Most people create passwords that are something about what they know and hold dear to themselves. Family members' names. They're going to find all that on Facebook. They're going to find out what your mother's maiden name is on Facebook. Where you went, what your high school mascot was on Facebook. Your dog's name on Facebook or your cat, whatever it happens to be. It's all there. Does everyone need to know this? Like, we give these cyber criminals everything they want. I used to have to dive into dumpsters to find this information. So it's easy. I had said to Allison on the show, I said, how much easier it would have been if in 1983 Facebook existed, Matthew Broderick wouldn't have had to go and look at microfilm.
It's funny on Facebook. There's I love seeing these questions come up where you're involved in a group, like a music group, and the question comes up from somebody in the group: what's the first concert you ever attended? And my answer is always security question.
Right.
Absolutely. The another one that people can do other than multi-factor, and this is going to be a little bit more difficult, and it may sound me being too paranoid, but your phone, when it's not connected to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and you still have it turned on, it's beaconing out. So I know every Wi-Fi access point you've ever connected to, which means if I'm that hacker, I can easily create an access point that has that information and you're going to connect to it. It's only a matter of time. It's a little bit more difficult for that criminal to do, but it's not hard. People will name their access point their home address. So now I also know you're not even home. So there's that part. So you turn off your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth when it's not in use.
Yes, I think that's great advice. And actually, I don't know if it was you who told me that, but somebody told me that, and I do that. Whenever I'm out, I do make sure to do that. Obviously, you're very passionate about what you do. What is it you like most about the work that you're doing every day?
So a lot of people would talk about the technologies. To me, it's the people. The psychology aspects of cybersecurity are so fascinating to me. The amount of people that continue to push off and say, well, cybersecurity is not my job. How do I get them to make them feel like it's their responsibility as well? So that's what I like
everybody's
about
job.
It has to be. I'm already playing the unwinnable game. And so if my own people that are here with me all the time are playing against me, it makes it even harder. So I'd like to, at least be on my side here and don't click that link.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio. Our guest today is Dr. Daniel Ford, Chief Information Security Officer of Jovia Financial Credit Union. My name is Donyshia Boston-Hill, along with Ray Schwetz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Yes, obviously there's some challenges with your job. You just mentioned one of them, which is we got to get people to understand that it is everyone's job. Cybersecurity is everyone from, the teller logging in to the CEO. For Jovia and certainly for other organizations, it's everybody's job. What are some of the challenges that you're experiencing and what are you doing to kind of overcome that?
Well, the biggest challenge happens to be security awareness. Mm-hmm. And also the cybersecurity professionals, we have to learn how to talk to people in their world. They're never going to try to live in our world, which is fine. It's scary. What we do is try to think like a criminal all the time. We have to think like evil people. And even though we do that, we're still not evil people. The normal person can't do that. That's not how they're built, which is perfect. Our job is to help them. We're in service to others. So when we start talking about anything cybersecurity, we have to put it in their terms. One of the funniest things I remember, I was asked several companies ago, I was at a board meeting, and the CEO asked me at the board meeting, which vulnerability are you most worried about? The physical one, like we're talking about like hardware, or the software, and kept going on. And I said, what you're asking me is that I just got my arm chopped off with a chainsaw and you want to know which blade was the sharpest. It doesn't matter. I lost my arm. I worry about the one that's going to be exploited today.
Okay.
And so that changes. Every day, there's millions of new variants of malware that are out there, attacks. So when we're talking to people, we want to learn about them so we can provide them real-world examples as to what they might be afraid of and get them to correlate that with what we're doing in cybersecurity. And that's difficult, and that's also fun for me.
No, I can see that. 'Cause honestly, sometimes just for, like I said, for the layperson, it does get a little overwhelming. I often think, I'm like, well, you know what? If the bad guy wants my information, he's going to get it or she's going to get it. And, you want to throw your hands up in the air, but you can't. You have to be constantly aware and just, be vigilant and do the best that you can.
Yeah, I was going to say, we spoke about war games earlier. Do you and your team play internal war games just to see if you can hack yourself?
Yes, we actually do it officially once a year. And then unofficially, we'll look at things because no organization can be under a constant aspect of patching your systems. Now, you have to patch, but if we were to do that, we'd be taking the systems down daily. There's new things that are coming out all the time. So what we do is we will take that whatever software issue is, and there's various hacking tools that we use. So then we will test that system to see if that particular exploit will work in our environment. And if it does, we know we got to get that patched pretty quickly. We have other countermeasures, compensating controls that lower that risk. And so if a CrowdStrike, which is an endpoint product that we use, so think, McAfee's, thing like that, but CrowdStrike's like on steroids to what McAfee does. If it can block it, okay, we're comfortable right now. We'll put that to the next regular patch cycle. If it can't block it, then we know we need to patch it right away. And that's a constant thing we have to do. So we are constantly doing many little war games like that. And then once a year, we do a big one. We also have 3 different external companies that do this also once a year. So 4 times a year, it's being tested at the whole organization. We have little mini ones. And then we do these things called a tabletop. We get together, and it's kind of like playing Dungeons and Dragons at this point. And I'm the game master, and I throw out the scenario and how are we going to react? And then we start going through and do we know what our procedures say we should do? And is there a gap? And if there's a gap, we fix it. So we do tabletops every month.
Love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so as we're coming to a close, like what's the one thing you want to make sure that our listener gets out of our conversation today?
I would say, again, going back to the don't trust anyone DTA, that's an important thing. You are not going to necessarily be able to prevent yourselves from being hacked if someone wants your information. So then what do you do to protect yourself in that event? And this is where I really strongly feel people need to go out and they need to get themselves insurance on this. There are plenty of companies. Jovia, we have identity theft monitoring. It's extremely important today. Cyber insurance, identity theft monitoring should be treated the same way as health insurance. You don't want to go out in the world without health insurance. Today, identity theft monitoring is almost a necessity. And make sure when you're looking at those companies that they have enough insurance that's going to cover whatever you've got in liquid. So liquid in this case, what's in your checking account? What's in your savings account? What's in your CD? So make sure that insurance, when you're talking to that identity theft monitoring company, can cover that because it can all be gone. I mean, this happened to my mom not too long ago, and she had a government security clearance for many years, and she got tricked. She was thinking these things happened. So, And it all came from an email, right? Nothing good happens in email. So, get that cyber insurance, talk to people, especially for those that have elderly parents. They are a very big target. Tax season's getting ready to come up. Big target. That's when the scammers come out. So none of that is going to be good. So don't trust anyone. Get yourself some insurance. And by all means, ask questions. If you are on Twitter, you're on Instagram, and you can come across a cybersecurity expert, I guarantee you, if you ask them a question, they will answer you. We love to help people. So don't be afraid to ask a question.
And obviously, we can find you on LinkedIn. What's the best way for people to contact you?
LinkedIn's great. That's probably where I'm most active, which I actually think it's just Dr. Daniel Ford on LinkedIn. I don't really do too much other on social at this point. It's just too much noise.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Yes,
Dr.
indeed.
Daniel Ford, our guest today, Chief Information Security Officer at Jovia Financial Credit Union.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. Visit nccradio.org for more information. We're available on Odyssey, TuneIn, iHeartRadio as a podcast, and iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of National Community College, 90.3 WHPC.